And now to the war against illicit drug trafficking, where operatives of the National Drug Law Enforcement Agency have arrested 2 Pakistani businessmen at the Murtala Muhammed International Airport, Lagos, with 8 kilograms of cocaine concealed in a public address system. The 2 suspects, who hold Nigerian residence permits, are frequent travelers to the country under the guise of doing textile business. Operatives at the Sako import shed of the airport also seized 13 cartons of tramadol imported from Karachi, Pakistan. NDLEA operatives at the Nako export shed of the airport also intercepted a consignment of different illicit drugs concealed in footwears and soap packs heading to the United Arab Emirates. A 32-year-old lady who presented the consignment for export was arrested. Meanwhile, operatives on patrol at Mulam Fashi Zaria Road in Katsina State arrested a blind man heading to Niger Republic with 20.5 kilogram cannabis and 10 grams of Exol 5. And the Comptroller, Nigerian Immigration Services, Edo State Command, Joachim Olumba, has warned those engaging in human trafficking and smuggling to refrain or face forfeiture of their property with prescribed jail term. Mr. Olumba made this known at an enlightenment campaign on smuggling organized by the Nigerian Immigration Services in collaboration with International Center for Migration Policy Development. He urged those perpetuating the illegal trade to desist from such, as the 2015 Immigration Act provided stringent penalty for those apprehended. And speaking to checkmate the intense trafficking by migrant smugglers in the Southeast region, the Zonal Commander, National Agency for Prohibition of Trafficking in Persons and other related matters, noted that inadequate logistics were part of the challenges confronting the agency in the discharge of its duties.
We have the service has taken the bold step of attempting to sensitize the public so that everybody is aware that this is a danger that is clear and ever present. So with this information, people will be more circumspect in their attempts and efforts to get out of the country.
So have been prosecuted so far. And in the southeast, smuggling of migrants is taking a very dangerous trend, which we know almost always metamorphose into human trafficking, and definitely you have the evil effects of human trafficking being meted out on the victims of smuggling of migrants.
The various remarks and speeches there during the opening ceremony know that there's a general impression, especially with Nigerian youth, that out there across the shores of Nigeria there are greener pastures or seeming greener pastures. But unfortunately, on getting there, in most cases they discover that the pasture is not as green as they thought.
And now to ongoing coverage of the flood disaster in Nigeria. More support is coming the way of flood victims living in several internally displaced persons camps across Delta State. The Association of Local Governments of Nigeria, while distributing food items to the victims, says it is important to assist and support the IDPs going through hardship and distress caused by the flood. We have more in this report.
The ravaging flood affected several communities in 19 out of the 25 local government areas of Delta State, which makes it one of the 10 worst hit states in the country, with an unquantifiable number of persons displaced and living in over 20 internally displaced persons camps. It is a huge humanitarian crisis to cater for these number of displaced persons, which the state government has been doing with helps from the federal government and other organizations. The Association of Local Government of Nigeria is joining to bring succor to the people devastated by the flood.
We intend to complement the overwhelming efforts of the state government in this regard. We feel the plight of the IDPs, and we felt it is necessary to also give them the necessary support in these trying times.
This distribution from Ughelli will get to all surrounding IDP camps housing thousands of people. In Asaba, the distribution of items continues to the 3 holding centers set up by the Delta State government and other centers across the Delta North Senatorial District.
Initially, things were not all that better, but now we are seeing a slight improvement.
Outside feeding and housing, the health of these persons is of paramount importance to the state government, as it is providing free 1-year registration for all persons living in these temporary accommodations into the state health insurance scheme to further cater for their health needs.
Their economic ability to meet the healthcare needs outside of this environment will be seriously challenged. So we're here as the health insurance scheme to register them into the health insurance scheme. The government will pay their premium.
Okowa thought it wise that the health is wealth, that they need to be herding for them to begin to now engage in some other things that they have to embark upon for the purpose of recovery, which is why he has directed the Contributory Health Insurance Commission to take steps to ensure that these persons are registered.
In the next couple of days, health workers from the state's Contributory Health Scheme will be going around all IDP camps to register persons living there to enable them access quality health services. These will add up to the 1.2 million enrollees already enjoying the state health insurance scheme.
And now to Edo State, where the National Emergency Management Agency has handed over relief materials to the state government to support persons affected by floods. The State Deputy Governor Philip Shaibu, who received the items, called on the federal government to dredge the River Niger to prevent future occurrence. Paul Ezinwa reports. All right, we'll bring you that report in as subsequent bulletins. Meanwhile, some environmentalists in Edo State have attributed the recent devastating flooding to environmental injustice and climate change. Speaking during the second Niger Delta Climate Change exhibition organized by Connected Advocacy in Benin City, they said there is a need to act fast to stop the environmental injustice and climate crisis ravaging the region. They also advocate environmental sustainability, cleaning up before building of dams to curtail the flooding, and comprehensive environmental assessment of impact of gas flaring in the entire Niger Delta region, particularly host communities. The stakeholders further recommend a move to green energy as the only lasting solution to the continual degradation to the climate.
The local community in the Niger Delta has been suffering the brunt of the impact of this fossil fuel extraction. So today, the resultant effect of that is what we have today as flooding, they call it now natural disaster, loss of livelihood.
The government cannot pretend to have been taken by surprise. The flooding, we saw it coming. And it's going to happen again next year. And the years, it's going to be worse in the future. There has been a need to build a protective dam on River Benue so that when the Cameroonians release water in that dam, it can be trapped there. If that is not done, we're going to have more water from more rain, more flooding coming, and it's going to be worse disasters.
But in the scientific way and looking at it globally, what has resulted in this flood is as a result of the excess CO2 and other greenhouse gases in the atmosphere. It's increasing our temperature and causing temperature rise in the world. And what we are seeing, the global north are experiencing melting of the ice, and the water is definitely going to find its level. It's finding its level down to the south, and we are seeing the impacts here.
And we're back to Edo State, where the National Emergency Management Agency has handed over relief materials to the state government to support persons affected by floods. Now, the State Deputy Governor Philip Shaibu, who received the items, called on the federal government to dredge the River Niger to prevent future occurrence. Paul Ezinwa reports.
The current humanitarian crisis being experienced in the country is described by many as the worst indicates. Some communities in Isako Central, Isako East, and Eastern South local government areas of Edo State recorded huge losses with buildings, farmlands, schools, livestock, markets, and places of worship destroyed, and many people rendered homeless. In the midst of the ravaging flood, there seems to be hope for these victims, as the federal government has provided relief items worth millions of naira to cushion the impact of the disaster. The food and non-food items delivered include rice, beans, maize, salt, vegetable oil, tomatoes, mats, mosquito nets, toilet soaps, and clothes. Director General Research and Forecasting NEMA Headquarters, Haija Fatima Kasim, who represented the Director General, said President Muhammadu Buhari's special intervention of assorted grains are from silos.
So the items, I want to brief His Excellencies and indulgence that the items being immediately shared to those that were affected by the recent floods.
Deputy Governor Philip Shuaibu appreciated the gesture and urged the federal government to find means to avert such devastating floods in the country in the future.
We want to thank Mr. President for these items and also the one for the flood victim. For the issue of the flood victim, I think beyond always coming, supposed federal, state, or local government or individual always coming to the rescue of giving shelter or giving food or whatever to flood victim. I think we should look for permanent solution. And the permanent solution that I have seen is for federal government to dredge River Niger.
These items are to be taken to affected communities immediately for onward distribution to the victims. Paul Izinwa, TVC News, Benin.